One, we're going to talk about reviewing your plan. Two, establishing farm records. Three, waterproof field boots. Oh my goodness. You have no idea how much this will change your life if you already don't have waterproof field boots. And we'll go into it in a second. Four, property tax reduction. So we will be touching base on taxes. Five, what I'm calling a land asset compilation. So that ties a little bit into estate planning, but I'll share a little bit more about that in a second. So one, review your plan. First off, you should have a management plan. If you don't have a management plan, get a management plan. So this is kind of under the assumption that you already have some sort of management plan in place, whether it was a brief management plan, a stewardship plan. And if you're like, Danielle, I don't know the difference between the two. A brief management plan is simply a plan written by a professional, a resource professional, a forester, a wildlife biologist, an NRCS agent, someone that has the education and the experience to legally provide you advice on timber and forest lands. I say legally because depending on the state you're in, it may be legally required for them to have a certain registration or license for them to be able to give you that type of advice. And no, stewardship plan is a 10-year management plan that takes everything into consideration of your goals, your objectives, and all of your tracks, all of your stands, and provides you advice of what you can do based on what you shared with them for the next 10 years. So that being said, review your plan and see if there was anything that needed to be done last year that just simply didn't happen, either because of personal situations with health and sickness, or maybe you're away too much, or time just simply got away from you and you didn't do what you needed to get done, or weather. So what may that be? That could be as simple as we meant to do our thinning last year and we didn't thin. Weather was a big factor, and again, life just got in the way. Next thing you know, it was December and you never got around to actually thinning your timber or reaching out to that forester to conduct that timber sale. So review, see what was not accomplished that you were supposed to have done last year. Determine what goals and practices you want and need to get accomplished this year. But you want to kind of get thinking and prioritizing when things need to get done. What adjustments might need to be made to better fit your situation now? If you have a consultant forester already, this is when you would also reach out to them and discuss the amendments and goals and needs for this year. If you don't have a consultant forester that you already have that relationship with, or you have those smaller acreages, reach out to one, or you can also reach out to your county foresters to have them kind of make some brief management plans for you and discuss some of the practices that you think would be beneficial for your property. The second thing you need to do this year, if you haven't already, is establish your farm records. All right. Call, email, go to the local office. Although I think because of COVID, you may have to make an appointment these days. Go to your local FSA, your Farm Service Agency office, to have your farm records established. If you don't know how to find your local FSA office, I'm going to show you how to do that right now. It'll bring you to this lovely little website. All right. And you look for the state you're in. Georgia's split in two since it's a pretty big state, and I'm in South Georgia. So we're going to go to the Southern Georgia. If you need FSA, you click FSA, and then you go to that other thing. And basically the same thing. You're going to click on your county. And now you see it says Farm Service Agency. I'm in Glenn. And it shows you where the county office that serves your county is at. So for me in Glenn, my FSA office is actually in Jessup, which is Wayne County. And then here's some contact information. I can call their office. Now, there are lots and lots of forms. This is why I'm saying to do it as early as possible, because I applied for my first cost share this last fall. And I don't know, there was about a dozen different forms, and I had to call them. I was like, what does this mean? What am I verifying? Because of course the fine print on all the bottom of the forms is this is a federal government form. If you're lying, you can be persecuted. Not that they're going to persecute you for making an accidental mistake, but I always get super paranoid about federal government paperwork. And they put all that in their system. They set you up with a farm number. They set your tract up with a track ID number. And this makes you eligible now to apply for cost share. But then you can go to your NRCS, your Natural Resource Conservation Service agent, and you can let them know what your acreage is, how many acres you have, what land type, which makes a difference if you have like ag fields, if you have pine plantation or hardwoods, something as simple as that. What type of land do you have? You have 10 acres, you have 50 acres. You share what your goals and objectives are long-term and for the year. If you can say something along those lines of what your short-term and long-term goals are, your agent, one, is probably going to give you a hug because they now know how to find which programs you might be eligible for and you should consider looking into and help you kind of phrase and be eligible for different things. So, and if you get them done early, if you go in and go next week, start your farm records, get them completed by the end of the month, this is going to help make sure you don't miss any application deadlines just because you didn't have your farm records. So, all right, 3, underappreciated, waterproof field boots. Now, if you're a long distance landowner, I still recommend doing this because at some point, in the year or in the years, you're going to visit your property or you should visit your property. And you're going to wish you had these because I've walked a lot of property lines and properties with long distance landowners that go out in sneakers, and sneakers are great, but your feet are going to get wet, they're going to get dirty, they're going to get muddy, and it's just a less than pleasant experience. So just go ahead and get some field boots, and if you're getting field boots, get waterproof boots. So depending on the type of land and terrain you're at, if you're in mountains versus down here in the swamps, will kind of gear you towards what type of boots you might really be needing and wanting. But I recommend something with ankle support. I like having something that's lace up over slip-ons when I'm in the woods, because if you accidentally roll your ankle when you have those lace up boots, it just provides you a little bit more support if you accidentally stumble in a hole, trip on a root, trip on a log or a stem, or trip on air, whatever it is. Do not get steel or composite toe shoes. They're just going to make your shoes heavier, especially if you're not out there that long, but you have this inspiration. I want to walk all of my property lines and I want to walk in the woods and enjoy the songbirds, the steel toe and the composite toes. That's when your toe is hardened and protected. It's really for like mill and machine work, or like factory type of situations. Height of the boots. You can do something as like, they have hiking boots that are more like sneakers that are just under the ankles. You can do that. Again, I prefer something just over ankles that gives you a little bit more of that stability. And then there's boots that go almost all the way up to your knee. Now, the taller the boot, the heavier it's going to be. But this is when you kind of look at your land type and your terrain. Are snakes an issue? Down here in South Georgia, it might, if you're out there a lot, it definitely might not be bad to have a pair of snake boots. And those are going to be tall boots that go up at least mid-calf, probably closer to your knee. Those are going to be lace-ups as well. Do you have high standing water? Do you need something more like muck boots, those slip-on muck boots that are waterproof up to your knee because you're going to be tromping around in the swampy type waters? Or do you have lots of briars and thorny bushes and vines that you're kind of wanting to protect your calves at? What I know y'all are probably at the edge of your seat waiting for: property tax. And specifically how to reduce your property taxes. Hopefully you've already done this. You may not have though. Get your property underneath a county tax conservation use agreement ASAP if it's not already. This can be huge savings depending on your state and county. There's my little disclaimer. But it can be up to almost 60% of reduced taxes compared to the current use. So if you are being taxed at the highest current use and you happen to be near a big city like Atlanta, Savannah, Augusta, something like that, but you have timberland, your timberland might be being taxed at that highest current use, which would be like development. But if you put it underneath something, a conservation use agreement with the county, you're reducing the taxes by saying, hey, I'm not developing it. I'm putting it in timberland, agriculture. I shouldn't be, taxed at development type rates. And that's going to reduce your taxes pretty substantially. If you're in a really, really rural area, think of Eccles County, Fargo, Georgia. Tax reduction may not be as significant because the chances of development in that area just isn't nearly as high, but it will still reduce your property taxes. Now, this is for each county your tract is in. I do want to emphasize this. So if your tract falls on like a county border and it falls within 2 counties, you have to go to both the counties for this tax assessment, because it is only for the county. You're making an agreement with that particular county. If you have multiple tracts in different parts of the states, you're going to have to go to each county tax assessors and get each tract underneath CUBA. Now, property taxes often is a killer for a lot of landowners if you don't have it underneath some type of conservation use. So this can be huge in reducing your property from being a liability and making it an asset for you and your family. All right, land asset compilation. So this ties in with what I was just saying. And this is pretty much like it's a basic estate plan. We'll just call it that, because you never know when something might happen to you. I highly recommend, you have your estate planning needs in order by an authorized estate planning lawyer, get that will, get whatever else type of estate planning needs you need set up. But I did want to put together a quick little access reference sheet. And you can look at it as kind of like a password book, which is really popular in the stores lately, where it's just like one little section book that has all of your passwords for all of your websites, your subscriptions, like everything you might need. That if something happened to you, your spouse or your kids would be able to log in and take care of the needs. So the 5 things you need to do this year to help you succeed in your land management. 1, remember, review your plan, determine what needs to be done, what is a priority, get a plan if you don't have a plan. 2, get your farm records established. Get a relationship with your NRCS office. 3, get yourself some good field boots, waterproof. Remember that. 4, property tax reduction. So if you're not enrolled into some conservation use program for your property, go to the tax assessors, figure out which one's best for you, talk to a tax accountant, especially if you have those larger acreages, to determine what might be a better fit for you, and enroll in some type of property conservation use program. And 5, fill out this quick little sheet and put it somewhere safe that's easy to be found with all the other documentations, because you can't really pick up your land and put it in a nice little safety deposit box, but you can take this sheet and put it with all the other important documents that if for your affairs and estate planning needs.